If you could just send the link,
I can do
because
that.
or something like that.
Yeah, I'll put it on
Um,
Google Drive.
that's fine.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by people who don't take the beaten path, because I mean, especially in the military, there's very prescribed career paths.
Definitely.
Literally for 20 years, you can chart out every single move. But I'm
Yeah.
always fascinated with people who are like, yeah, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna hack my way through the wilderness, right? That whole two roads diverged in the woods, and
Yeah.
instead of the beaten path, you're hacking your way through. You get to
Yep.
see views that other people don't get to see. So I'm always curious,
Definitely.
what's it been like coming out of the academy and then now ending up where you are? What's the journey been like?
Man, and I feel like you know most of the story. Mine's just a different version, but it's definitely been this was totally unexpected. Like if you would ask people when I was cadet and my family back in the day, like if I would be like doing this stuff that I'm doing, they would have been like, "You're out of your mind," because I was like the most like straight and narrow kid. I was the one. I did JRTC in high school. I was actually Army JRTC, by the way.
Okay.
So my mom worked at Fort Sam Houston like my entire childhood
Hmm.
in San Antonio. That's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And so I was already I had set myself on this path, and then other people had set me on this path too. And so when I got into the academy, I mean, I loved my time at the academy, and it was incredible. And then my career in the Air Force was awesome. But yeah, when I hit that kind of inflection point, you know how it feels like when you're done. You know
Yeah.
when and it's
It's
different for
enough.
everybody. It's like a day where it happens where you're like, okay, I'm ready to get out. I'm ready to be done.
Yeah.
And I hit that point, and it when I got out, I was kind of in this dark forest. I like how you talk about like, hacking your way through the
Mm.
jungle, because you know how it is. Like you get so much, especially when you're a grad, you get so much of your identity from the military and from
Mm.
your job and from your AFSC or MOS for y'all. And I definitely was like, I didn't realize that all that stuff was super important to me.
Yeah.
But then when I got out and I didn't have it anymore, I was like, oh, who am I now? Like, what am I about? I went from captain, special agent to Mister.
Mhm. Yeah. So big transition, man. Oh man, that's
Huge.
people calling you sir, people looking up to you just because of what you have on your chest and on your cover, your hat.
All of it, the whole
It's all
thing. And then
gone.
all of a sudden it was all gone. And then I went down this freelancing route. I was like, everybody would ask me, when I was getting out, what are you trying to do? And I was trying to be a Spanish court interpreter.
Mm.
And people would be like, good luck with that. They'd be supportive, but then they would like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I went and did that. I taught myself Spanish to fluency. I didn't become a court interpreter. And then after like 2 years in, ironically, because of all, I saw the writing on the wall back in, this was 2017, 2018, of all the technology
Hmm.
and all the AI and all that stuff. This was 2018. And I was like, there's not going to be a need for as many interpreters or things like that, translators. And now look at us, like
Yeah.
5 years later, certainly, I don't know how the interpreting field is now, but I mean, imagine there's way less. You just don't need as many anymore with all of the AI stuff. So I pivoted. I went to go get my teaching certification because I had done some tutoring at my high school
Hmm.
after I got out, and I liked it. I liked being with the kids. I like mentoring and them, seeing me, and I just like teaching. So I went back and got my teaching credential, and I got my credential. It got cut off during COVID a little bit, but then over in California, they grandfathered us in. So that was good. But then we moved here to Japan, and then all of a sudden, teaching credential is no good because it's in the States.
Oh. Oh.
So when we got over here 2 years ago, it was like, okay, what you gonna do now?
Hmm.
And I had been already like posting some stuff online. Actually, my first time doing stuff online was posting like blog articles. I was writing for medium.com. I don't know if you know Medium.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's where I started. I would just post some like little writing and here and there. But then in like 2018, I started vlogging. So over the years, I was like collecting all these different little skills, and they seemed like completely unrelated. And I didn't know like where it was going to end up or anything like that. But then after I had so many together, and after I wrote my first novel, um, I was like, okay, I'm ready to like advertise this. So then that's where the marketing piece came in. And last year was big on social media for me. It was huge, like learning how to actually use social media as the tool that, and I've noticed you've been doing that as well. I
Mhm.
remember seeing some of your TikToks and
I'm trying.
it's fun, and that's what it is. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things I like about social media that's also
Mhm.
very frustrating about it is that it's a giant experiment,
Yeah.
like every time you're throwing stuff out there and
Mhm.
somebody I look up to equated it to like pulling a lever on a slot machine. You
Yeah.
just never know who's seeing your stuff on the other end and
Right.
how they may receive it, how it might change their life, how they may change your life as a result. So you just get better at like defining and refining your message, how you tell your story, how you pitch your products. And a lot of time it's not even pitching anymore. It's just like I'm doing this thing and
Who
I'm
won't?
presenting it.
Yeah. Who won't in?
I've seen you doing similar things. So
Yeah. And I've
that's pretty
always
much
been
me.
fascinated
Yeah.
by, oh, sorry, continue,
Oh,
continue.
go ahead. But that's what I was gonna say. That's pretty much me. I mean,
No, I was just going to interject on that point, and because I want you to continue, but I love that idea of describing social media that way. It's a lot like
yeah.
how I tried improv for a hot second. That was hard. But the way to describe it's like play. You're reminding yourself, it's like grown-ups playing. That's how I feel social media is, right? You get out of your head. So much of
Yeah.
the day is spent on an agenda. In fact, I have my calendar up right here. I have my emails over there. I have my notifications on this screen. It's so planned and structured and rigid. It's
Hmm.
like when you flip on that camera, especially for the TikTok style. And I'm people
Hmm.
have their feelings about TikTok. I don't care so much about that. What I like is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they've presented us with, the opportunity
Exactly.
to just literally let it out. Just
That's it.
whatever's on your mind, unstructured, unfiltered
Right.
for 15 seconds. Just play for a second. Have
That's
fun,
it.
be yourself. And you get to
Hmm.
see what comes out. I had an art teacher because I've been going on this creative path that I've been documenting. And she said the most profound thing to me, as structured as I am, she said, look, when I start to paint, I don't usually know what I'm going to paint. I just start with the
Mm.
canvas and I let it tell me what to
There
paint.
it is.
I was like, hold on, wait,
Yes.
what did you just say? What? You mean that gorgeous painting you have on the wall that you created? You didn't know you were going to make that. She's like, no, I just, the paints, the way the brush felt, the way it moved.
Yes.
And there's
Yes.
something so incredibly liberating about that,
It
right?
is.
About being able to just let go in a safe way, right? Just let go, not be
I
so
love it.
structured, not be so forceful. So yeah, I love what you're saying about social media. And I wish more people knew that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people see I feel like there's 2 sides to social media.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like it's the consumer side where everybody's is the entry point for pretty much everybody when you get first discover a new platform like TikTok or Twitter or whatever it is. You're on this side to where you're being fed stuff. And I'm kind of going through this right now again because I actually started a Twitter account in Japanese. I'm
Mm.
learning Japanese. I'm like really trying to get really strong at it now since we're here. And I started a Japanese Twitter account. So I had to start over. So my algorithm's all crazy. Like people are, it's just offering me stuff that I'm not interested in because it doesn't know, because it doesn't have enough information about me, like talking to a Japanese audience. And so I think that's what happens, especially now that they're all heavily algorithm driven now, that you have to get through that phase of, okay, it's learning about you. And most people never get past that phase. They just, they're like, it's showing me stuff. And some people, it goes two paths, right? Some people really like what it's showing them, and other people hate what it's showing them. It riles them up. They're getting all these notifications. It's all the stuff they don't care about, or, it's emotionally charged every time. So they're like, oh, social media is terrible. And I feel like that was where I was at back in 2020 when COVID broke out. COVID breaks out. And then, of course, you have the doom scrolling and Everybody's looking at what the next update is going to be. It's all scary times and all this stuff. And I just made a decision. I remember like a month into it, I was like, you know what, I'm tired of just being on this thing and not, it's just draining me. I'm going to use the time. I'm going to use it for something different. So that was the beginning of the mental shift. And then last year, it took a couple of years for me to go through this. I'm summarizing very heavily, but it takes a while to get through this mentality to get to the next level to where, okay, this is a weapon now. I need to sharpen it. I can sharpen it. And yeah, it's algorithm driven, whatever, but there's a way to play the game to where you can actually benefit instead of just posting stuff and getting riled up and people, listening to all these inflammatory conversations about, because I've heard whispers about stuff that's going on with TikTok or anything like that, like potential regulation. Honestly, I don't know anything about it. It's just probably because I'm over here in Japan. So I don't really know what's going on. But the point is, like, it's, if you look at it as kind of for what it is, it's a piece of software. It's a very powerful piece of software, but that anybody can use to do something, to tell a story, advance a message, sell a product, whatever. I think if you think about it that way, then it shifts. It begins to shift how you approach it.
I agree.
It becomes different. Yeah.
And I agree with that. Now I want to ask you how you use that idea of it's a weapon.
Yeah.
How do you sharpen your weapon, and then how do you deploy it?
Yeah, I like that. So basically, I've been fortunate to run into several just people who are just super effective Twitter users. And the way I use it, and maybe this doesn't work for other people, but it works for me, is this concept of that I learned last year in a course of selling your sawdust. Basically,
yeah.
as you're creating stuff, you probably get where I'm going.
Yep.
But it's probably good for people listening to this, because this was a mind-blowing concept for me, because that was one of the hardest things, right? It's like, I want to create stuff on social media. I want to use it. But how do I integrate this in? This feels so hard to actually make it like practical to actually do it. So now basically whenever I work on something, or not whenever, most times when I work on something, I will post like, here's just an update of what I did in an interesting way, right? Like, not really. And this is where kind of there's some artistry there and there's some creativity, and it's personality driven too. It just depends on how, if you're listening to this and you have, how could I do that? You're going to do it in your own style. And that's what it goes back to the play that we've been talking about, that we mentioned before. But yeah, I just kind of post these updates in an interesting way, and I do it regularly. And then another thing of categorizing what you are posting. That's another way I sharpen it. Like, I make it continuous, right? So I have these threads, these learning threads, where if I'm learning music or I'm learning about coding or whatever, it's a continuous running thread. And that was another big unlock for me too. Instead of like posting, and this is specific to Twitter, there's other platforms, ways you can use other platforms. Every platform kind of has its own little gimmick or mechanic, but for Twitter, you can thread things together. So instead of just posting like, here's another one, and then Tuesday I post something, Friday I post something. No, if Tuesday and Friday are related, go back and find that Tuesday tweet and then link it together. And then now you have a running list. So when anybody finds that topic on your account, they're going to find all of this. You're basically creating a digital resume for everything that you are doing. And that's one way that I'm using it, like to very powerful effect, because every time I post something about learning Japanese, it's just a running list. I started it back in October of 2022, and it's now January. So it's been 3 months of me just occasionally, and it's not every day, but whenever I do, it's like, wow, we can see like I can see my Japanese getting better. Other people can see my Japanese getting better. It's the same with any other thing. So that's one way I do it. That's just one strategy. There's other strategies I could talk about too, but like how to engage with people and actually like be a person on social media. I think that's things that people forget. Like
Mhm.
they get caught up in the followers and the numbers and the views and the impressions and all this stuff. And okay, that stuff it is mildly important, but I think people forget there's actually people
Yeah,
using these accounts. Everything kind of becomes a number.
right.
And I think that's to our detriment because then you start focusing on those figures and you're not focusing on, okay, there's actual people there. If you actually, like, one thing I started doing was when I like something, I ask myself, why did I like this? And if I can't like think of a like pretty immediate reason why I like it, I unlike it.
Mhm.
And if I do like it, I leave a comment.
Mhm.
And I think I started this last year, and it's such a simple thing. But if you equate social media to like in-person in-person interactions, right? You wouldn't say, "Hey, I like your yellow shirt, Emmanuel. That's a nice yellow shirt."
Thank you.
And yeah, it is nice. And you wouldn't just like that, like it's so weird, right? It's a very weird concept that is very new to the internet, but in real life, it don't work without like some context or some type
Yeah,
of smile or some other reinforcing action to tell the person that, oh, okay, they really like the shirt because it's a nice shirt. I picked it out. I feel good in it.
it looks good on you.
It looks good on you. Like there's no context. And I think the likes and stuff, like it's a mildly good feedback mechanism, but it's not very effective. And I think if you just focus on likes, you're not you're not you can't transition to the other side of using social media as a tool that it can be used as.
Right. It's almost like people focus more on the media part of social
Yeah,
media versus the social part of
I love
social
that.
media.
I love that.
The
It
numbers and
is
the
very
likes and
true.
the views. It's a social platform.
It
Engage.
is.
Treat people like you
Exactly.
want to be treated. I'll tell you, I love that idea of selling your sawdust. Both of these ideas fit to the same idea is vulnerability. I feel like that's kind of what TikTok and that short form content is created, and UGC,
Mm,
user generated content, is
mhm.
we're just tired of the polished Instagram world, right? Where you're
Right.
showing a fake life. You see these people, renting out a private plane to sit on it for a day to take a whole
Right.
bunch of photos to show that they're living that lifestyle. It's not true.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, Mike, one of the reasons why I resonated so much with your sell the sawdust idea, which was a phenomenal message, which I'd heard, I'm going to butcher it obviously, but it was a story of like, people chopping down trees or doing woodworking, and they'd have these piles of sawdust. And then the
Mhm.
sawdust was just sitting there, getting in the way,
Right.
and they started to find people who needed the sawdust. So their waste product that they couldn't throw away or were just going to throw away became a product in and of itself. So the idea of
Exactly.
documenting the journey, the raw, uncut, unfiltered material that would be a blooper reel in the past, or cast it aside on the cutting room
Right.
floor, is actually beneficial. It could be a product
Right.
on social media. I love that idea.
Yeah.
And this is what happened with me. I did a challenge last year in May when I launched my TikTok. I said, look, I'm going to dedicate myself to social media. I'm going to try this out,
Mm,
see if I can do
yeah.
it. 3 posts every day for 30 days. My
Wow.
sister challenged me.
Wow.
And it
Ooh.
was like, how hard can it be? It's 15 seconds. 2 weeks later, I burnt out. I
It's
was done.
3 posts a day, man. You
Three.
ambitious.
And I didn't realize it at the time. I was naive. I'm
It's
this hard charging go getter. Like, 3 posts,
mhm.
15 seconds. These kids are doing it, man.
Mhm.
Kids. What?
Mhm.
I'm a polished professional. I got gray hair. I don't earn these gray hairs, right? Like, I can do this. But I burnt out. And I was talking to my coach about it.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I can't do this anymore, man. I'm tired.
Mhm.
Like, I'm just sick
Mhm.
of waking up every day trying to come up with something
Yeah.
interesting to say. Because, hey, what was I doing? I was trying
Mhm.
to make something interesting. I
There
was
it is.
trying to make something that makes me look like an authority figure that, oh,
Mistake number one.
exactly. And that's the whole point. So this idea of sell your sawdust, she gave me the best advice I could have gotten, which is share that. And I
Mm.
would tell you, I turned on the camera right after that call and I said, look, I quit. I'm an
Mhm.
entrepreneur who wants to quit. It is by far the best performing post I have done to date.
That's amazing.
Since, and I've done a lot of posts since, right? But it gave
Yeah.
me freedom. Just be yourself, man. I told him I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm struggling. It's
Yeah.
hard. And I ended it by
Mhm.
saying, I don't even know if I'm gonna be here tomorrow. We'll see. I give up. And I came back to it. There was so much encouragement. And I learned another lesson about social media. This might be one of your tips, is you can reply to a comment with a video on these short form platforms. So
Yeah.
I got comments from people that were very encouraging, and it didn't feel right to just say, thanks for the encouragement. There were people that were like, keep your head up. You can do this. You got this. To your point about being human, it didn't feel right to just say, thanks. Thumbs up emoji, heart emoji. That didn't feel
right.
So what I did is every single person that replied to me as a comment, I replied with a video thanking them. And that all of a sudden, then you look and you're like, wait a second, now my content, I just made 15 videos per platform on Instagram, on TikTok. And that's what I've done since. I'll do a week or two blitz of 1-a-day posts, and then people will comment, and then I'll reply with a video comment. And now I've got 2 or 3 more videos. So, I mean, there were so many things that came out of that, but back to your idea of sell the sawdust, it's a powerful idea. You know, add that to your other strategy of create running lists of categories and topics so people can see the progress. It's almost like a playlist on YouTube, right? Like you have a playlist for Japanese, for Spanish, like really, these little things are what really, especially what we're trying to do with ROI Creatives, is try to figure out what is the 80-20 of content creation, right? Like it doesn't have to be hard. So many people are scared to start, to jump in, to make content. So that brings me to a big question. Why I wanted to reach out to you specifically is you're a creative person, right? Do you identify as that?
Yeah, I do.
The reason I say is because it's such a juxtaposition with Naval Academy grad, right? You're not, we're not known for writing novels, you know, and I'm a West Pointer, and I went the exact opposite route, right? So we're very hard charging, analytical, engineering, you know, types, but yet here we are years later tapping into this creativity. Like, how did you come to grips with that? And was it always there for you, or is it new? So all of that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm an Air Force grad. I gotta make sure for the record that people know, like I rep Air Force, rep the silver and blue. And I actually did do a semester exchange at the Naval Academy though, when I was cadet.
So you're wrong on both counts. Go Army.
I know I messed up twice, man.
Try 2.
I'm just happy to be talking to you. I'm like, man, he's Army, Air Force. We shouldn't be getting along.
You know, right? All these zoomies. What did y'all call them, West Pointers?
What did we call
Because the Navy folks were squid. Wait, y'all didn't even think of
squids.
Is that what you're saying? The Naval guys were squids.
What did we? I don't think we had a name for y'all.
Oh man,
because actually our big rivalry when I was a cadet was mostly Navy. Like Army, we had our rivalry too, Air Force, Army. But I mean, I just remember like the Navy, when it was Navy Air Force game, it was like, oh man, here we go again.
Man, that hurts even worse. You know, people always say, what's the opposite of love? It's not hatred, it's indifference. You hurt my heart, man. We didn't even think of y'all.
We didn't even think of y'all, man. It's cold world, man.
It's cold, brother. Hurt my heart. But yeah,
back to your question about creativity. It's always been there, man. When I was a kid, my brothers, I had 2 brothers, and we loved Lego, man. So we made this like entire Lego town, like the town. I remember we had 2 like twin beds where my brothers and I used to sleep. And then when we got older, they got another bed. And so we used like this entire bed frame as a Lego town. It was all the base plates, and then we built buildings on top. And I remember like when I was 11 or 12, we made like a home movie or something about it. And we had the characters and stuff. And we even did some stop motion things. And so things like that, when I was a kid, it was always kind of there. And so to your point about like being military and stuff, because this was something, I think this is one of the reasons why we connected, because you saw I kind of had this thing going last year. I was calling it the military creative, where I was basically trying to get more of us vets and grads and people that are just like typically not associated with creativity to doing more of the stuff that we're doing. And tapping into that. And I still kind of maintain the spirit of that and something else that I do. But bottom line is, it didn't really work. Like I didn't really find the audience at the time for it. But yeah, we're definitely not known for creativity. And I know when I was active duty, I almost lost mine because, you're active duty, you're being told when, where, how, here's your job, here's where you work, here's your coworkers, and there's not a lot of wiggle room
Yeah.
for your own thoughts, let alone your own like doing stuff like this. So what I did was I kept a journal.
Mm.
I started a journal um, when I was a cadet, and I wrote in it and for 13 years. And I didn't write in it daily, but I wrote in it regularly enough to where I kept that creative spirit. And it wasn't just like I did this today. I went here or there. Eventually it became like a writing practice platform.
Mhm.
And so I would write stories, I would write poetry, I would like try and imagine life from the perspective of different people. I would talk about the places that I was traveling to, and I was traveling all over, the training that I went to. And so it kind of became this story in itself. And so that one thread, I actually just wrote about this a couple of days ago. That thread of creativity really kept it alive for me. I felt like I was like blowing on the embers of a flame that was going out. Like if I stopped, like it was gonna, but something told me like this is important just to do this little silly act for, even if it's just 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And I wasn't doing it every day, mind you, but it was just something to like keep that active creativity going. And so to your question, like, yeah, it's kind of always been there. And I just never, because it wasn't my job, because it wasn't my identity, because, I went to the academy and all that stuff. It, it wasn't like I didn't consider myself an artist. Like it was like a couple of months ago that somebody said, "You're an artist,"
Mm.
because they heard some of my music for my
Mhm.
podcast. And I was like, it kind of took me a second to
Mm.
let it sink in. Like, you know what? I am an artist
Mhm.
because I never thought about myself. Like, I was like, artist people, they think a certain way. They talk, they're all "Oh,
Yeah.
whatever, like I don't know. I have this, I had this image of what an artist was, and it wasn't me because I was the straight laced military kid. I was the military guy, but definitely with the music that I've done with my podcast, I do voice acting. I run this entire podcast myself. I've written it, of course. I edit it. I do everything. And yeah, there's an artistry there. I'm making creative decisions daily. And I love that. And I love that my creativity has taken so many different forms, so many more than I ever thought it would. And I just keep pushing it. I just keep pushing like what new technology can I try? What new platform can I try um for myself too? I mean, just like what can I learn? What can I read that I can integrate into my stories, into my writing, into my whatever. And everything kind of becomes a remix of itself. Um so that's me, man. Like
That- That's
it's
powerful.
kind of always been there.
What do you do with that now with that? Like, what would you even say that is? Is it a newfound confidence? Is it a new sense of identity? Is it who
Yeah.
you always like? Has it opened a new road? Like, are you owning it? Because even as I hear you describing how
Mhm.
it's almost like that person said that, but then you still kind of pulled back into a more cerebral, less feeling,
Mm,
right? Like it's still kind of blocked off, So
yeah.
how are you embracing it and moving forward in that? Are you going all in with that?
Yeah, I'm pretty much all in mentally. I'm not all in like time wise, just because practically I can't be like I
Right.
I do, and I like teaching. I teach part time at a high school near where I live, so I like that. It's not really about the money because the money's not that great, but I don't really care. I like being around the kids. I like teaching, so but I'm all in as far as like mentally now. Like, and because you're right, there definitely was some pushback at the beginning that were just like, I didn't go to, what do y'all call it? What do y'all call y'all's army training
Basic
schools?
training or
Like your
Camp
job
Buckner?
schools,
Oh,
your job schools.
AIT.
Yeah, AIT, stuff
advanced
like that. Yeah, in the Air
or
Force, we
officer
call it,
basic course?
yeah, we call it tech school, like when
Okay.
you go to like get your job training. I was like, I didn't go to tech school for being a creator.
Right,
I
right.
didn't go to tech school for podcasting. And I still kind of have that voice in the back of my mind saying, you're not qualified to
Mm,
do this. And you know why, because that's the academy and the military. That's what it trains you to like wait until you're told,
yeah.
until you're qualified, until somebody says, okay,
Mm,
here's your special badge or your rank or your position or whatever for you to do this job. And then you start doing it. Flipping, inverting that mentality is really hard when
mm,
that's all you've known your entire life. And that was me. And so every day I have to flip the script and say, okay, I am qualified because I'm doing it. That's the only qualification you need, is to do it. And the more you do it, the more qualified you become. And I struggled with this with music. I started writing music. I wrote my first song nearly just about 2 years ago, just under 2 years ago. And I'd never written a song. I never really played an instrument growing up. I played trumpet like in 8th grade,
mhm.
but piano, guitar, never touched those things. And now I can play both with some competence. And I've composed over 40 songs for
Golly.
my podcast,
Mhm.
but I still wouldn't call myself a musician.
Oh.
Like
Wow.
this was a couple months ago. It took
Mhm,
me just that mentality, right? It was that I had, what we were talking about. I wasn't trained for this. I
mhm,
don't know if my music's any good. I don't know if I'm doing it right or whatever. I've studied some music theory and I know how to play a little bit and I know how to work my way around a DAW, a digital audio workstation. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm the right guy, if I'm the real McCoy. But that doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're doing it. It's like we're in this time where you give yourself the qualifications, like that running list that I talked about on Twitter and stuff with these different categories and stuff I'm learning. That's just a tangible kind of, just a visual for me and for other people. It's the resume, it's the paper, but the actual experience comes from the doing.
mm,
And that's what I love about this, is that you can do it in so many different ways and you can integrate different pieces in. It's not a tech school to where it's like, here's the curriculum and we're going to go from A to E, and then after so many weeks you graduate and you can do all these things. I can give myself capabilities in whatever I want. I get to pick and choose what
mhm.
type of music I write, what type of stories I write, what type of newsletters, what type of social media content I put out. I choose everything. And I like that. I love that. Some
Man,
people don't,
you
but
motivate me, brother. I tell you
yeah,
what. So do you feel comfortable even now saying it? Are you an artist?
yeah. I'm 100% an artist, man.
Are
Like
you a musician?
I'm a musician. If you listen to my podcast, you will see, like, I mean, it's almost, it's hard because I can't listen to it as like someone who doesn't create it,
Right.
but I don't know how other people perceive it, but because it does change a lot, but it evolves. Like if you listen from the beginning when it was just supposed to be an audiobook to
Mm,
like now to where it's like a full-fledged audio drama, sound effects, sound design, music, just the kind of creative decisions that go into every episode. Um, you'll be like, I think maybe that's what might be impressing people about it, is that one, is just mostly a one-man show, but also that there is some creativity, there is artistry in it. And yeah, man, I definitely am calling myself an artist.
that's
You
awesome.
know,
That's awesome. I tell you, I listened to your short story. I'm on episode 1. I haven't got to the podcast yet, but it's fascinating to me. I was blown
thank you.
away that you made that. And I did not know you also have a podcast. I did not know you're also a multilingual. I did not
Yeah,
know that you create music. I did not know all these things. And yet here you are still wondering, there's
yeah,
some doubt in there. Am I an
yeah,
artist? Am I a musician? Like, it's powerful because I started this whole journey after I went to that death cafe to become more creative, right? And so the first thought that hit me as soon as I decided that's what I want to do and tap into that, I felt that same feeling you have. And so, I love the definition you gave. Just the doing is the only qualification you need to call yourself an artist. It's a whole different world. It's not like where we came in the military, where someone else has to bequeath you with the status of artist, musician, right? No, you pick up the camera, you're a cameraman. You pick up the paintbrush, you're a painter. Like, just go do and see what happens after that. So fascinating.
Exactly. And if anybody's listening to this, I don't know, like, the type of people that listen to your show or things like that, but I feel like anybody can hear this and take the message away of just start doing it. Like, I think one of the biggest things I struggled with was when I was starting, was that I felt like I needed to have a whole solution. Like, it started with my website. It was like, well, the website doesn't have this XYZ. It's like, no. Is the website operational? Can people see it? Can you see it? Does it have all the stuff that you want on there? Even if it's just bare bones, even if it's just contact information and one thing that you made, whatever you're making, writing, drawing, whatever you're doing, then it's done. And you will iterate, if as long as you keep going back to it, it's going to get better if you keep doing it. And that's why I like this concept that I heard about last year of do 100 things. So it basically just goes like this. It's basically like, whatever you want to do it 100 times. And see how it changes. It's highly unlikely that if you do something 100 times and you like count and you legit do it 100 times, that you're going to be terrible at it after 100 times. It's just unlikely. You're going to have things that are bad. You're going to have a lot of things that are bad. But you're going to also have a few flashes of brilliance if you keep doing it. Like, and if you, of course, want to do it, you're not, this is assuming, hopefully you're not being forced to do this. But if it's voluntary and you're interested in whatever it is you want to do 100 things of, then just do it. It's not do, and I love it because, as a teacher, it's not do 100 good things. It's not do 100 A+ worthy things. And I think we all come up in some type of education system to where that is the metric. And as a teacher, this is just super close to me as far as like grading and all this stuff. But it's true. You're not trying to get evaluated. It's more of, you're trying to just do the rep. That's what matters more. It's not really, at the end of the day, is it C work or A work or B work? No, it's just, did you do it? Did you complete it? And then how did it feel at the end? Do you feel like, okay, it was a total pain in the ass, and you would never want to do it again? Then don't do it anymore. Or did you love it? And did you go through this evolution and be like, that was a lot of fun creating all of that stuff? Okay, now do it 100 more times and you'll get even better. And the more you do it, it becomes this reinforcement flywheel, to where it's like, it gets easier to do, it gets more fun to do, and your quality is going to rise as well. But you just have to do it a lot,
which reinforces doing it more and doing it
exactly more, and the flywheel just keeps spinning. But I feel like that's where people stop, is they make one video and they're like, oh, I got like 10 impressions, 10 views or whatever. And it's like, okay, make another video. Oh, I got no likes, or I got like somebody saying, get a better mic, camera sucks, or something. Some people trashing you. You get these comments and stuff. Everybody gets them, but they don't hold on. And then after the third video, they quit. They're like, this doesn't work. Social media sucks. It's trash.
Right.
But you have to keep showing up, because I did a similar thing with TikTok last year. I didn't go as hard as you. I didn't do 3 a day. Like, man, that's 3 a day is tough. But I was trying to do it, like, I was trying to connect it to my reading. So basically I tried to like focus mine on, like, because I like to read. So I was basically like, okay, I'm going to like try and summarize chapters, basically like reaction videos to these chapters. And it was pretty good. It started out pretty good, and I actually started getting some traction on TikTok. But the problem is, I read very differently. Like, sometimes I'm reading in Japanese, sometimes I'm not even reading fiction to where it's very good for like TikTok material. It's like nonfiction to where it's like really hard to make it into a good video. So I stopped. I mean, but yeah, I think just trying to frame it in some type of way, that was another strategy that I was trying to use. But point is, like, I didn't do it enough to see like the benefits. Like I saw some of your TikToks, like you went in like with yours. Like I was like, man, this guy, he's got TikTok
Yeah,
on
I was
lock,
doing it
man.
all. I was shaking my booty. I was dancing for the camera, twerking for dollars. I was doing it all. I was like, if
I
I'm
just remember
doing
this one.
it,
I have this image of you in my head. You were doing some type of face to where it was like with the camera or something. I
oh, was
can't.
it the one where I was dancing? It was like a bubble, like not a bubble. It's like a slow motion, weird trailing head thing. Yeah.
I
You
think it was
are dead
something.
to me. You always did. I had fun with that one.
I mean, I just love that we're two vets
Mhm.
talking like this because honestly, it's really hard. Like most of the, I don't know about your network, but most of the people in my immediate network, it's just really hard to get to that, to where it's fun, to where it's
Yeah.
like you think I could do this every day if it felt like a 9 to 5, if it felt like a job, like to where, I mean, I'm not saying like it's all fun all the time. There's definitely aspects of it that are not fun, but I don't think you can do something every day when you don't bring some type of lightness to it, when you don't bring some type of play to it. It's really hard. Even like a regular job, it's just tough when it's like, oh, I have to do this to pay the bills, or I have to do this to, satisfy somebody else's agenda for my life or whatever, or because my parents told me so, or because my family needs this or whatever. And I'm not saying those are legitimate reasons, but if that's the only reason that's in your view, then it's going to be a rough time.
Yeah. And
But with the creativity, you can always make it like, I'm just going to make a funny TikTok video and see what happens. And then it just so might happen that you're just being yourself
mhm.
results in massive, just in massive payoff, massive benefit. And I had this last month. I had a video that was supposed to be a training for Chat GPT. Maybe you saw this, and it went viral.
Mm.
It went like mini viral, right? Not like millions of views, but for me, it hit like 30K views over a month.
Ooh, wow.
My YouTube channel exploded
Mm.
from, it was a dead channel at the beginning of December, 11 subs to over 400 subs in
Wow.
1 month.
That's huge.
That's insane for a channel that was essentially dead. It had like 10 videos on it. This was my Hack Studios, Hayden Academy Collective Studios YouTube channel. And this was just supposed to be a training. It was me teaching about ChatGPT, which was brand new at the time. And I had used it, and I had just kind of come up with some ways that I was using it to enhance my workflow. And I shared that with, it was just supposed to be a training with some friends on Discord. And it was, that's when I recorded it. And the quality is terrible. Like it looks so, it's like one of my worst videos. It wasn't planned or anything. And this is by far the most popular piece of content I've ever created.
Hmm.
Like the most like immediately popular. And so
And it
I guess the
stems
moral of the
just from,
story,
yeah, go ahead.
is like what you were
Go ahead.
saying earlier. It comes down to being yourself. And I know it's kind of a platitude. It can be kind of cliche because some people are like, well, you don't want to see the real me,
Yeah.
like, and yeah, there's true. There's definitely um uh a way you present yourself, right? And I think some people are more conducive to that than others, and especially us as grads. I think we're used to. I was like to say one of the biggest lessons that I learned from the academy is how to bullshit my way through anything. I feel like every grad from every academy has this in them. Like it's like, okay, cadet, you need to 7 basic responses. Go. Like you just come up with something,
Mhm.
and they're like, maybe they get off your back, maybe they don't, but you have to do this so many times throughout your cadet career and then throughout your active duty career that it just kind of becomes ingrained. At least that's the way it is for me.
Yeah, it is ingrained. It's the idea of figure it out, adapt and overcome, command presence, just look like you know what you're doing, walk tall,
Exactly.
sit up straight, like just appear to know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like that has like gotten me so far.
Mhm.
That is like, man,
But it's
there's
a
been
blessing and a curse to your point, right? Because you're right. In my network, it's being creative and being playful and being, joking around and allowing yourself to come through. It's not something that's valued. And where we come
no,
from, you think
no,
about it, you can't do that. It's actually detrimental to the
exactly.
mission to be an
Absolutely.
individual, right? Like, call 'em
Hmm.
Blue Falcons, right? Like these guys that are out there doing their own thing, Mavericks,
Hmm.
wild, it throws things off. So it hurts, part of being a good soldier, being a good airman, I'm sure, and being,
Hmm.
in the military is falling in line, right?
Yes. Yes.
Falling in, we all bleed army green kind of a thing. And I
Yep.
find that now, even though we're not underneath that, a lot of the clients that I have that are former military cadets, former
Mm,
academy, especially, that is the hardest thing I have to do when we get them in front of the camera is loosen up, man,
hmm.
because it's immediately they
Yeah.
lock up, right?
Yeah.
They lock, like I'm sitting here joking, they're telling me jokes, I'm telling them jokes. All right, we're rolling, and bang, they lock up. We are, therefore, we are, because we're, and it's like, that's what we just know. And it's like, no,
Right.
bring that guy I was just talking. That's because what I have to
Yes.
explain to them over the course of a day of shooting is, which usually unlocks them, especially the business folks
Yeah.
on camera, is people buy from people. At the end of the day,
Yes.
we buy
At the
from,
end of the day.
you need to
Yeah.
connect. It's what you said about social media. So the
Hmm.
social part of social media, be human. That's
Right.
what sells. And so literally my job is not to be a producer, a director, cameraman, or anything when I'm in front of those
Right.
folks, is to just help them let themselves go, help them
Exactly.
get outside of these walls of barriers of protection that they've had. Either it's protection to protect themselves from letting people see who they really are, or that they are
Exactly.
afraid, or that they are scared, and to
Yes.
let all that fear, the judgment, and more importantly, the playfulness back
Yes.
out. One of the little tricks that I use is if and now it won't be as hidden if any of my clients ever see this, but I always I always have them do some TikTok-y type stuff, the stupid little
Mm,
pointing,
yeah.
or this stupid
Yeah.
stuff, or make faces, right? We just do that to warm up, but then we use
Yeah.
that in the final drafts. And
I
they
like that.
always want it. They'll approve. I approve this one. That's the corporate style. I approve that one. I don't approve
Hmm.
this one. I don't approve that one. They don't approve any of the TikToky stuff. But I'll bring their family in or their coworkers in, and I'll show them while the person's watching. And what inevitably happens is they get to witness how people fall asleep watching the
Mm,
corporate stuff, but
yes.
people lean in,
Yes.
smile, engage when the TikToky stuff comes out. And they get to
Exactly.
see other people see them be human. And that
Yeah.
opens the doors. The very next day, they come to the set. They're like, all right, turn on the camera. I want to try it this way, and I want to try it that
Right.
way. And all of a sudden, all the things that I was asking for yesterday that seemed ridiculous, I refuse.
Hmm.
You're trying to make me look like an idiot. Emmanuel, who are you? I've
Hmm.
been cussed out, man. I have been cussed out by people.
I
Like, I'm not
believe it.
doing that. Why the hell would you even ask me to do something so
Hmm.
foolish and so stupid? I'm a
Hmm.
professional. I've done this.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. We're not.
Hmm.
But the next day, here they are, because they get it now, right? Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, whether you like TikTok or not, or short form video, or even social media,
Hmm.
humans have not changed in millennia. We connect with each
No.
other. And I don't want to
Yeah.
see soldier person. I don't want to see formal corporate person. I want to see you. I want to see
Right.
who you really are. And the sooner you can let that come through, the sooner my defenses go down. And I'm willing to
Hmm.
hear, okay, so what are you selling? So what do you guys do?
Exactly. What do you got?
Yeah, what do you got?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I trust you now.
Yeah. It's building that trust through vulnerability. And I've seen this, everything you said, I've seen it in my own um career. I've seen it as a teacher. I've seen it as a creator. I've seen it when I was in the military. Like when you let that professionalism kind of like not be the leading thing, right? You still want to be professional. You still want to be, do your job. But at the same time, when you be who you are, Like you have to let some of that leak through. And I feel like it's become a lot more acceptable nowadays to let more of it leak through. Like I
Yeah,
think of like being in the classroom. I was just in the classroom yesterday at the school, and the students nowadays they expect a level of openness and vulnerability because they've just grown up with that access, right?
right.
It's not like when you and I were coming up to where the teacher was like kind of it was a one way type of thing. The teacher told you, you did it. And if they wanted to share stuff about themselves, some did, most didn't. I feel like now with the way the internet is and the way these kids they can just go to TikTok, they can go to Instagram and see how people are living. They can see like every aspect outside of the professional sphere. They just have more of an expectation to have access to that. They
Right.
don't need to know everything, but they just in their mind, they're like, if somebody's not giving that to them, they're automatically like, this is kind of weird
There's
because
distance.
there's a distance between us. And they're not alone in that. You know, I'm
Mhm.
using the kids as reference, but I feel like people in general have now come to expect um, a more openness, like the whole corporate sitting behind the camera, straight laced, locked up, reading a teleprompter. That
Yeah,
I'd argue that doesn't really resonate with most people. It
it does.
just doesn't. And that's not how people discover stuff now. Discover the people, people may throw shade on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but that's how people discover stuff now. They
Mhm.
discover everything through their feeds. They see
Yeah.
what their friends are reading or watching or consuming, and they want to do it too. They want to go eat there. They want to go see the movie. They want to go to the place. That's the way it is now. And if you are trying to sell something, whether it's a message or products, and they scroll past your stuff and you're sitting there locked up and being this kind of robot, right? Then they're probably gonna scroll right past you.
Not probably, they
And
will.
that's
Yeah, we've
they
we've done
probably will.
A/B testing. We've spent millions of dollars on ads where we'll do
Yeah.
the polished one, because the brand demands it, and then we'll do
Hmm.
ours. That's just them talking on a Zoom call like this that we put out there. And every single time the branded one works, and the confirmation is simply, it is obvious on social media that it's an ad. That is
Yes,
because
exactly.
nobody's friend is going to go do a $30,000 video shoot to put
Hmm.
something on Facebook. So it's
Right.
clear it's an ad. So they just swipe right by, swipe,
They
swipe.
swipe. Yep.
All that money wasted.
It's
When all you had to
exactly.
do was pick up your phone with your hand, hit record, and for 30 seconds say, here's me, this is what I do, this is where we do it. I can't wait to see you. Goodbye.
That's
Bang.
it.
That's going to work better
Hmm.
every single time.
I
So,
think so.
man, I love
Yeah.
it. I feel like we could talk for hours, and I hope we get to do
Yeah.
this again. I really
Yeah.
do. My
For
big
sure,
question
man.
now is, how can I support you? And if anybody else happens to listen to this, how can they support you too?
Yeah. So my website, keithhayden.net, that's kind of the gateway to all of my stuff. I have a lot going on, but the
Mhm.
main thing right now is the podcast. It's called Sirius and Limnic. That is Cereus and Limnic, Limnic. I always have to spell it just because it does sound a little weird. It's a sci-fi podcast,
Mhm.
totally self-produced. It's on wherever you get your podcasts. So whatever platform you listen to, it's on there. I've also started to put some of the episodes on YouTube as well and add some visuals there. Um, for support, try out the podcast. Listen,
Yeah.
if you are into basically like sci-fi, fantasy, Chinese dramas, Japanese anime, American war culture, our military culture's in there, of course. Um, you might dig it. You might
Yeah.
like it.
I've listened to the first one, and I'm going to binge the rest. It is fascinating to me how you blend so many different things. Like you said, your experience is not just, I grew up in a small town, and I've stayed there the whole time. Like it's so broad, and you bring that all into a
Yeah.
futuristic sci-fi novel.
Yeah.
How? Like it is riveting. Yeah. I got
Yeah.
to give you kudos, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. The story was kind of brewing for a while, and I'm glad it came out earlier and that it just I want people to enjoy it. And I wanted to make something, I'm a teacher at the end of the day. So I wanted to make something that made people think at the end of the day and had fun.
And then what about getting the community together? I love this idea. I looked for it. I couldn't really find it. I've heard a little bit. There's some
Hmm.
Hollywood types that they're, vets in Hollywood. I think there's a group that I'll
Hmm.
try and plug into. But I liked what resonated with me about you is you tried to get a group together. What needs
Yeah.
to happen to resonate that? Are you done looking, or is it something maybe we can work together on and put out?
Oh, I'd absolutely love to talk to you about, because it sounds like you've actually got like a good amount of resources to actually make it happen. I mean, because I'm a one-man show, like I'm a one-man show substitute teacher doing all this stuff. And occasionally I get some help from my wife, my lovely wife. But yeah, so I don't have like those resources. But yeah, I'm very much still looking, man. Like, and just recently I've started something I call the city.
Mhm.
And it's not just vets, but it's basically creators. Excuse me, it's basically creators, just supporting other creators through just companionship, just being there. Because I mean, it's, as you know, it could be a lonely road.
Yeah,
Not everybody's doing this, and if they are doing it, some are doing it casually, and they're not doing it to the same extent. So I am very much interested in finding other vets and U.S. government like people who are not native creators, and helping them find their creative instinct
I love it.
like you and I have. I mean,
I'm
because
just,
I just feel like at the end of the day, it's so freeing. It's
yeah.
so, there's so much, even if you're not trying to start a business, even if you're not interested in like selling products or selling the stuff you make, you just want to make it for yourself. Man, I dig those people just as much, because it's valuable at the end of the day. It's so, just to have one more person who's like, I have a reason to get up because I'm going to make something that is mine today.
Mhm.
And in this world where it feels like less and less what we have is truly ours, and algorithms and platforms and things like that, when you make something, it's yours. There's no doubt that it came from you, even if it's bad, even if it's not like A tier stuff. A lot of it won't be. I know a lot of mine isn't, but it's still valuable, if not only for yourself.
That's
So, yeah, I'd love to continue looking for people, man.
powerful
It's
words, man. And you said it was
mhm.
this the city. Where can I find that, or what is
So right now the city is basically just it's like one blog post on my Substack.
it? Okay. Well, I'll look
I'm
for it.
basically like, I'm
I'll look
building a
it up.
city. So if you go to my Substack, it's called Pyramid of Ideas.
I love it.
Um, you'll find the article where I'm talking about, hey, I'm trying to build this city. And then there's a link to my newsletter, The Creative Futurist, where the creative futurist is creative futurism is kind of my personal philosophy of how I put all of my stuff under one umbrella.
Mhm.
But the newsletter is kind of the vehicle where I talk about creativity and basically trying to create a, this is the field manual, the Army field manual, the Air Force instruction for creativity. Basically, that's what I'm. I've never said it that way, but it's basically what it is. It's basically like, if you pick this up, you and read it
Right.
and absorb it and do it, you will be a more creative person. That's what the
Boom.
Creative Futurist newsletter is.
That's exactly what I'm going to go pick up, because I'm on this path, and you have shortcutted my process, my friend. You are the guide, and I know you're going to help so many people. Like, you are so prolific. I don't even know you realize how many different things. I lost track. I've been taking notes. I lost track of how much musician, artist. It's almost like it was pent up so long. Now it's bursting. It was screaming. You can't keep that down. Now you're writing, you got this email list, you've got the pyramid of ideas, you've got the city, keithhayden.net, the
Yeah,
podcast, you've got you got it all. And I'm happy to see it. You fire me up, you motivate me, and I can't wait to do this again, my friend. I'm glad
I
we,
appreciate it, man.
yeah,
Anytime.
let's connect and let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
bring everybody together.
for sure.
Well, thanks, brother.
Yeah, no
Talk to you
problem.
soon. All right, man. Take care.
All right. Bye.